I'm putting together a series of videos about Call Me By Your Name, a 2017 indie film shot in Italy in 6 weeks on a tiny budget, spoken in 3 languages and with no explosions, but with a whole lot of growing up going on. I'm starting my series with 3 videos: an introduction to the series itself, a video to introduce the film to people who haven't seen it yet, and this video for you if you have seen the film and are now interested in how first the book and then the film came about. More videos are coming. To start this video off, welcome to the shores of Lake Huron in Ontario, Canada, where the rolling waves are going to be our backdrop while I blather away. So, let's go way back, like way back, to when the author of Call Me By Your Name was only authoring the occasional burp and poo. Writer André Aciman was born in Alexandria, Egypt in 1951 to mother Regine and father Henri. She was deaf, he was the owner of a successful textile factory, and they were all part of a thriving expat community of Sephardic Jews of Italian and Turkish origin who made and lost their fortunes mostly as merchants. Family members lived close by along the city's Mediterranean coastline, including doting but battling grandmothers, so André was brought up amongst an eccentric group at a time when Alexandria was quite cosmopolitan. French was the chief language spoken at home, but André also learned Arabic from the servants, Italian, Greek, and Ladino, a Jewish dialect, from his family, and English at the British school he attended, but where he was a poor student. In 1965, President Nasser nationalized Jewish-owned businesses when tensions with Israel began to rise, and expelled Jews from Egypt. Henri bought Italian citizenship for his family and moved them to Rome while he moved to Paris. 14-year-old André does not seem to have been terribly put out by his parents' separation of a few years, as they tended to fight when together. 3 years later, having come to love Italy, André's father then moved the family to New York City, with André soon applying to colleges there. He was accepted at Lehman College, graduating from it with a BA in English in Comparative Literature in 1973. He went on to Harvard, from which he obtained an MA, then a PhD in Comparative Literature in 1988. So much for being a poor student. Aciman began to teach and write, with his essays appearing in such publications as The New Yorker and the Paris Review, while his teaching posts have included French literature at Princeton University and Bard College, and creative writing at New York University. He is currently Distinguished Professor at the Graduate Center of the City University of New York, teaching the history of literary theory and the works of Marcel Proust. In 1995, he published his first book, a memoir called Out of Egypt, recalling his family's history there from before he was born up until they were expelled. It won the Whiting Award, an annual prize given to emerging American writers of fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. Out of Egypt is a funny and fascinating read. 10 years later, Aciman, with his wife and sons, was preparing for an annual summer visit to Italy. But after circumstances intervened that stopped the trip from happening, André sat down to chase away his disappointment by traveling to Italy in his head instead, writing a story that would take him there. He started on familiar ground by setting the tale outside a small town in the seaside vacation home of a college professor, his wife, and son. Here, every summer, the professor invited a grad student to help him out for a couple of hours a day, while providing the student with room and board and a place to complete their dissertation. The trick? The grad student would complicate the life of the professor's son, displacing him from his bedroom for the duration of the 6-week stay. This summer, however, 17-year-old Elio's displacement would be balanced by a teenage hormonal rush. Aciman, now the father of 3 boys, wanted to focus on the awakenings of desire and the mood swings that plague love-struck teens. The story became Call Me By Your Name, and in the lead-up to its publication in February 2007, A New York literary agent handed a galley proof of the book to Peter Spears, an actor and producer whom he thought would be interested in the film rights. Spears, along with friend Howard Rosenman, who had read another advance copy, teamed up and won the small bidding war to option the rights. Upon its publication, with its deeply drawn, fascinatingly reflective central character and convincingly raw portrayal of furtive teenage yearning, the book was proclaimed a gay literary classic. Of the many quotable quotes reviewing the book, the Washington Post's was possibly the most succinct. Superb. The beauty of Aciman's writing and the purity of his passions should place this extraordinary first novel within the canon of great romantic love stories for everyone. Fueled by the strong critical reception of the book, Spears and Rosenman began their quest to get the film made. James Ivory, of Merchant Ivory Films fame, was a neighbor of Spears, and as Spears imagined the film in a Merchant Ivory, a room with a view type light, they asked Ivory to be an executive producer. A fan of Aciman's new book, he agreed. Luca Guadagnino, an Italian film director they were familiar with, was engaged as a location scout. A screenwriter-director was engaged, a screenplay was written and costed, actors were attached, and the producers looked for $12 million US in financing. Despite the success of Brokeback Mountain 2 years earlier, finding $12 million for a same-sex indie romance proved fruitless. After 3 years' worth of unsuccessful attempts to raise the money, the first director and actors left the project, and a couple more attempts to make the film in more of a studio setting also failed. Still determined to succeed, the producers then asked if Ivory, now in his mid-80s, and Guadagnino would consider co-directing. Both agreed, Ivory, provided he was able to write a new screenplay. Ivory's script moved the filming from the expensive Italian Riviera to Sicily, but the budget, not quite halved, was still richer than the financing that could be raised. At this point, Guadagnino suggested that if the story were moved to Lombardy, where he and his regular film crew lived, he could drop the cost significantly again. Ivory reset the story once more in the Lombardy countryside. Financiers, however, were leery about an 86-year-old co-directing, that Ivory would slow things down. So with Ivory's blessing, Guadagnino was made sole director, and $3.5 million US was successfully raised from French, Italian, and Brazilian investors. Guadagnino went about pre-production arrangements, like new casting, like finding music for a film where the protagonist is a musical prodigy. The gorgeous score of Call Me By Your Name is one of the most powerful elements of the film in terms of transporting the viewer and merits me assembling a video just on it. Like acquiring locations for the film around Guadagnino's hometown of Crema, including securing an extraordinary house, practically a character in itself, and also getting the right cinematographer for the film. Guadagnino wanted Sayambu Muktipram, the Thai director of photography from the 2010 Palme d'Or-winning art house film Uncle Boonmi Who Can Recall His Past Lives, whose 35mm work he admired for its dreamy and intimate qualities. Guadagnino had his two main casting choices in mind for years. After seeing him play the Winklevoss twins in The Social Network in 2010, and then subsequently meeting him, Guadagnino had wanted to work with Armie Hammer, and Hammer struck him as the perfect fit for the 24-year-old grad student Oliver, whom the Italian characters in the book refer to as "Che movie star." Equally crucial to get right, New York actor Timothée Chalamet was 17 when he was set for one of the earlier failed versions, and now 20, but still looking 17, Guadagnino was keen to keep Chalamet, who seemed to embody Elio's inquisitive spirit, precociousness, and talents. With filming set for the early summer of 2016, after finishing up as the lead in an off-Broadway run of a John Patrick Shanley play, Chalamet was flown to Italy in early April. Upon arrival in the town of Crema, he began lessons in Italian, piano, and guitar. Hammer arrived about 3 weeks later and met Chalamet for the first time when bursting in upon one of his piano lessons. The pair were soon spending free time touring about the area and soaking up its culture and atmosphere. Another 3 weeks later, in mid-May, reels of film began to whir through the camera. Shooting took place over 33 days and wrapped at the end of June. By the end of summer 2016, Guadagnino and his editor Walter Fasano had a cut to show Sundance programmers, who scooped it up for the January 2017 festival. Sony Classics saw the film shortly in advance of Sundance and bought worldwide distribution rights, planning a summer 2017 release. At Sundance, Call Me By Your Name played to rapt audiences and garnered rave reviews. Sony canceled the summer release plans and got the film into TIFF instead to launch it for awards season. While Call Me By Your Name went on to become a modest box office success, films about two guys getting together don't have the greatest market pull. The film's campaign, with members of the cast and crew popping up here and there across the world as it played the festival circuit and was recognized with many awards, is singularly remarkable, so I'll be doing a video on that too. This is The Little Film That Could, and there's a lot more to say about it.